at the countries in the world from the historical lens. Why certain countries are developed, while other countries are still underdeveloped. From the historical perspective, we can see that colonization changed the landscape of economy, politics, and social of colonized and colonial countries. Malaysia, for example, was colonized by Portuguese, Britain, Japan, and Denmark for nearly 500 years. We can see that the colonial countries, such as Portuguese, Britain, Denmark, are more advanced than the colonized countries, since almost 600 years ago, they already have technology and knowledge to come and invade other countries such as Malaysia, South Africa, and Indonesia, and took away billions of resources from Malaysia to their countries over a long period of time. The resources that the colonial countries robbed from colonized countries are worth billions of dollars and would be able to increase the wealth of the colonial countries and be able to maintain the country's prosperity. The colonization is an extremely bad and immoral behavior where no words can actually describe the pain and suffering of the colonized countries which happened for 100 years. In the case of Malaysia, during colonization phase of the British bring Chinese and Indians from China and India to fulfill the job in mining and rubber estate respectively. The Malay is recognized as the son of soil and diversity privilege compared to Chinese and Indian, and this increases the satisfaction between ethnics and in Malaysia, and this is something very common among countries that have been colonized in the past, including South Africa. Therefore, colonization leads to political instability and racial tension due to forced immigration of the Chinese and Indian to Malaysia. The 500 years of colonization period is simply overwhelming and overbearing, and if we want to compare with the 60 years of the independence that Malaysia just received in 1957 is actually just nothing. To blame Malaysia for their own weaknesses in economy, politics, and social is totally unfair, since the colonization effects are traumatic to the colonized countries. Alright, now we look at the countries in the world from the cultural perspective. Culture is defined as the collective mental programming of the human mind which distinguishes one group of people from another. We can look at the Hofstede model of national culture in order to understand the cultural perspective of each country in the world. The Hofstede model of national culture consists of 6 dimensions, and this topic is widely discussed in the website. And students must try to look at this website to know more about this topic, basically. Right, so the first dimension according to Hofstede is power distance index. This dimension expresses the degree to which the less powerful members of the society accept and expect the power is distributed unequally. People in societies exhibiting a large degree of power distance accept a hierarchical order in which everybody has a place and which needs no further justification. In societies with low power distance, people strive to equalize the distribution of power and demand justification for inequalities of power. The second dimension is individualism versus collectivism. Individualism can be defined as a preference for a loosely knit social framework in which individuals are expected to take care of only themselves and their immediate families, while collectivism represents a preference for a tightly-knit framework in a society in which individuals can expect their relatives or members of a particular group to look after them in exchange to unquestioning loyalty. Masculinity versus femininity, where the masculinity side of the dimension represents a preference in society for achievement, heroism, assertiveness, and material reward for success. Society at large is more competitive, while for femininity stands for a preference for cooperation, modesty, caring the weak, and quality of life, and society at large is more consensus-oriented. Uncertainty avoidance index related to how society deals with uncertainty and ambiguity. Countries with high uncertainty avoidance maintain rigid codes of belief and behavior and are intolerant of unorthodox behavior and ideas. With uncertainty avoidance societies maintain a more relaxed attitude in which practice counts more than principle. Long-term orientation versus short-term normative orientation. It focuses on how society deals with the challenges of the present and future. Societies who score low in this dimension, for example, prefer to hold with traditions and norms, while at the same time dislike and disengage with changes in society. Societies with high score are more pragmatic and ready to brace with modernization in order to prepare for the future. Indulgent versus restraint. Indulgent stands for a society that allows relatively free gratification of basic and natural drives related to enjoying life and having fun. Restraint stands for a society that suppresses gratification of needs and regulates it by means of strict social norms. Right, now we look at the positive budget dimension from the Malaysian perspective. Our business score is 100, which means subordinates expect to be told what to do, and the ideal boss is a benevolent autocrat. Challenges to the leadership are not well received. Individualism score is 26, which means Malaysia is a collective society caring about one each other. Masculinity, we score 50, balance in line between achievement and success versus the quality of life. Uncertainty avoidance, we score 36, more relaxed attitude to deal with uncertainty, schedules are flexible, punctuality is not norm, work hard when necessary. Long-term orientation, we score 41. With low score of 41 in this dimension means that Malaysia has a normative culture, which means they are tied to norms and tradition in their thinking. They exhibit greater respect for traditions, a relatively small tendency to save for the future, and a focus on achieving quick results. Indulgence. Malaysia's high score of 57 indicates that the culture is one of the indulgent. People in the society is classified by high score in indulgent generally exhibit a willingness to realize their impulses and desire with regard to enjoying life and having fun. They possess a positive attitude and have a tendency towards optimism. In addition, they place a high degree of importance on leisure time, act as they please, and spend money as they wish. Alright, now we're going to discuss a little bit how religion influences individual ethical principles. Islam provides general rules, for example, for the followers, where Muslims are not allowed to involve in business related to usury, pork, liquor, cigar, and bad activities such as gambling and sex industry. In business ethics, it's not permissible for male staff to shake hands or touch the female staff. Muslim women are required to cover their bodies from head to toe, and any kind of manipulation of women, for example nudity, or any act of shamelessness in the attitude is totally not acceptable. Bribery, discrimination, and cheating in business is totally forbidden in Islam. Right, now we go to the final section that is on the example of business ethics practices. The West treats extroversion as a positive value, while the East values introversion as a mark of wisdom and obedience. The Westerners like to smile and greet others when they meet. I remember that when I walk on the street, they always say hi to me, though they never know each other very well, but never ask questions related to their personal details such as their age and their religion. In China, for example, they serve food, don't finish them all. It means that the host is not affordable to provide enough food for the guests, while the Malaysian culture behaves differently. In Singapore, for example, kiasu is embedded in their work culture, which means afraid to lose out. Punctuality is important in developed countries, meaning we be held on time and we don't expect delay when we use public transportation such as train or bus. But for developing and underdeveloped countries, punctuality is not normal and many always start until bit late. Some firms produce food that suit with the taste buds of the society in the country. In India, for example, the McDonald's sell burger patty in India instead of beef. They make the patty out of potatoes, vegetables, and spices. McDonald's burger in Egypt, for example, is much larger in size than the burger in the UK and in Malaysia. This is probably the nature of Egyptians or Arabic countries to eat large portion. In Malaysia, Pizza Hut sells pizza rendang and pizza ikan bilis during Hari Raya, for example. KFC, hot and spicy, is more popular in Malaysia, where in the society love chilies and spicy food. But in the UK, the original fried chicken is more favorable rather than the hot and spicy, basically. For Middle Eastern countries like Saudi, Dubai and Kuwait, black cloth vermin is norm. Mouse, cockroaches, worm are pesticide in developed or developing countries, but all of this traded as appetizer in the underdeveloped countries. Alright, that's all for our class today. We will learn about the dilemma of multinational corporation next week. Inshallah, see you again and have a nice day everyone. Bye bye.